Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 25th day of August. I am live here on all links here. Going to talk about this Daquan Wright situation out of college football world. Looks like the Big Ten and SEC both have banned players from coming back. So I don't know. You're going against the judge here. This is going to be a pretty interesting court battle here to see how this plays out per se. So I'll talk about that. Also, going to talk about the AFC East and the AFC South, giving you a preview. Sorry about that. My alarm's going back off, telling me I need to get on the air, which I am on the air phone. I've made it. So anyways, got a great show with you. Stand by. We'll take our first on the break. I'll be back here momentarily and hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. You are listening to the Real Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show on the planet. Honest but fair opinions and admission when I'm wrong. If you want to be part of this success, you can reach me at the word sports with an S, another S, KOPE at gmail.com. Again, that is the word sports with an S, another S, KOPE at gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. Okay, now, let me get to my notes before I get ahead of myself. And let me say this. The NCAA, college football powers to be, is the most inconsistent, hypocritical organization on the planet. I mean, the idea that this guy cannot come back, although he's got eligibility left to play after getting cut from an NFL team to play in college. When you have guys like, this was just a quick Google search, folks. You've got guys like Chris Winkie, who played 6 years in minor league baseball. 6 years getting paid as a professional. Comes back at 28 years old and plays for Florida State, wins a Heisman Trophy, wins a national championship in 1999. Some of you younger audiences may be more familiar with a Brandon Whedon. Remember the Oklahoma State product? He played several years in minor league baseball in the Yankees and Dodgers organization. He's getting paid, folks. These guys are getting, what difference does it make whether you play professional football or, and this is, think about this. Both of those examples are from the prior to NIL becoming legal. This is way before the Supreme Court ruled of name, image, and likeness. Colleges cannot tell them that they cannot profit off there. So that's my take on it. I think it's a bunch of nonsense. I think it should be highly, if you got years of eligibility, you can't make the NFL. You can go back and you can utilize your college, finish up your degree. You can play college football, get some more money from NIL, and get another pop at it another year. Okay, so that's my take on that. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. It's probably going to go out in the courts. This guy may try to get on somebody's practice squad. I think his college days may be over. Interesting to see how this is going to play out between the courts and the SEC and the Big Ten putting in actual bans for players who went into the league here. So that got me fired up. I got a little bit of ahead of myself before I get started on the AFC and East and the AFC South. I want to send my condolences to the family of Dolly Parton there. Being a Tennessean, she's been a staple of this state my whole life. the famous country singer, but also entrepreneur, philanthropist. I mean, she gave to a lot of charities. Went to Dollywood when I was 9 years old with my cousin by marriage. My man Stephen there and his grandparents there went to Dollywood. 80 years old. I thought that she was going to be fine. Strong work ethic, utilized everything. Thoughts and prayers with Dolly Parton here. Should have started the show off with that. Just looked down, saw that, sent some stuff over to my mom, listened to some of her duets with Kenny Rogers, the 9 to 5 movie. I love the song 9 to 5. Remember, she wrote the Whitney Houston hit there. Will Always Love You. Jolie, Take My Side. So, yeah, thoughts and prayers with the Parton, with her family members, okay? Got a little bit ahead of myself there. Let's see. Somebody said, what are your thoughts on Floyd Mayweather fight coming up in September? Who is he fighting? Pacquiao? I don't know, man. Pacquiao looks like a money grab on both parties there, if I'm not mistaken, if he's fighting Pacquiao. I know he's had some financial issues. We'll see how that plays out. When it's in the middle of football season, these fights kind of get pushed back. Not unless it's a really good one. I'll watch it, but I'm not really hyped up on that Floyd Mayweather fight. Not unless he fights a real fighter that I think can actually beat him. That'd be interesting. It might be Pacquiao. It might be somebody else. Either way, I'm not sure, folks. All right. Okay. Now, so I did the AFC North yesterday. Cincinnati winning it. A little generous on Cincinnati's record there. I got Baltimore finishing second, Pittsburgh finishing third, not making the playoffs, and of course, the same record for Cleveland. I hope I'm wrong in some of these predictions. I'm just looking at the games, looking at who's coming back and whatnot, the coaching and everything, the age. Pittsburgh's a little long in the tooth. They've got to get younger in key spots there, particularly on the defensive side, and of course at quarterback. So today I think I'll start off with the AFC South. Okay. All right, now the AFC South here. I'll start off with Texans. That's just the way this thing is. That's the way this book is set up. This Lindy's picking them to finish first. I cannot disagree with them too much. The key for the Houston Texans, folks, is just getting the belief of C.J. Stroud in the offensive line and the trust of the offensive line, so he has the ability to make decisions and not get happy feet in the pocket. He didn't trust that offensive line last year. He was getting rid of the ball prematurely, had a lot of turnovers in the last few games there, looked awful, although he still beat the Steelers there. The defense, probably the best defense, if not the second best defense in the league last year. I don't see why they can't be the top defense in the league or one of the top 2-3 defenses in the league, no farther, depending on, obviously, injuries, in the league this year like they were last year. I know the Rams are going to be really good, adding in a couple secondary players, and, of course, Myles Garrett, the defensive player of the year, still in his prime. They could possibly be – and, of course, Philadelphia's got a great defense as well. But I do think the Texans have the best defense in the league there. Stroud, this magazine has him on the hot seat. I do think he's got to find his swagger back. I have not gave up on Stroud. 3 straight years in the NFL, 3 straight playoff wins in the first round. You cannot that has to mean something, okay? And the fact that they added David Montgomery, and, you know, for those of you watching some of this preseason games, I know it don't show a lot, but I do like this Woody Marks running back paired with David Montgomery. I know they've had an injury at receiver there with Jaden Higgins tearing his ACL, but Keyshawn Booth, very good chemistry there up there with Drake May. in New England. I thought that was a pretty good trade there. They traded a safety there, and they made that trade, brought in Booth there. It's just keeping these receivers healthy. I do like the addition of Reed Blankenship added in at safety there. Foster Monroe, another tight end. He's a pretty good player. Foster Monroe there. Bounced around the league. They got 10 defensive players, 9 on offense coming back. I think they're going to play really well this year. I've got this team going 13-4. Now you say, well, that's a little bit, Jeff. Yeah, I'm probably a little too high on that particular. I could see him screwing up a few more games, maybe being 12-5, 11-6. But I just said 13-4. I've got them getting off to a rough start, losing the first few games to Buffalo and Cincinnati, but going on the winning streak against Indy, Dallas, Tennessee, Jacksonville, the Giants. They get off a bye week. They play the Chargers off a bye week in the middle of the season at Cleveland. So I really see them pairing off a few wins here, going on a nice winning streak the second half of the season, starting around November 8th, only losing to maybe a Philadelphia on a Thursday on Christmas Eve, finishing off pretty strong, like I said, around 13-4, having a very strong season. Now, we'll see. He does have a defensive-minded head coach there. There were some happy feet issues. There were some turnover issues, some confidence issues. I think a good running game can help any young quarterback. This is only year 4 for him, okay? Year 1, the guy looked like a second-nature player that looked like a veteran. It's like second or third starts. I want to say he went through first 6 or 7 games without an interception. It was unbelievable the guy wouldn't turn the ball over. Really good start. Kind of got shaky there. I think they're going to rebound quite well. Of course, they played well last year. Remember, they got to win. If they didn't get he wasn't so loose with the football, they probably could have beat the Patriots in that god awful sloppy game in the divisional round last year. Okay. So I got them playing well at 13-4. Now let's go over to the Colts here. Listen, the Colts had the number 1 seed at one point. Remember, they were 7-1 last year at one point with Shane Steichen. Put in Daniel Jones here. Good chemistry's flowing well. We know they have a good offensive line. Running the ball really well. Jonathan Taylor just got another extension there. Jaylen Warren turns out to be a home run hit there at tight end. Defense, solid, not great, but solid enough for them to win games here. But the problem's always about Daniel Jones staying healthy. He was never really healthy with the Giants, tripping over his own feet, getting injured. You name it. He's going to come back now. And the key is for them is, can Riley Leonard, they're going to do something with Anthony Richardson. I don't know if they're going to cut him in the next week or so, trade him, kind of like with Tennessee and Will Levis. You don't know what they're going to do, something, you just don't know when, right? Any minute, right? So Riley Leonard, can he fill in adequately being a second-year player for this Colts team? So that's the $64,000 question, because you almost could, with Daniel Jones, you don't know when and then they gave Alec Pierce all this money. I don't know if I would have paid him that kind of money, but they brought him back, paid him a ton of money. They did lose Michael Pittman. I didn't like the fact they lost Pittman there at receiver, but they let him go. They kept Pierce and let Pittman go, and added Adrian Key. So I do think that they're a solid team here, the Colts. But, this Carly Ursay Gordon, she's a little wacky. The owner there wants to hear all the plays and stuff. I do think Shishkin could be on the hot seat, although I think he's impressed a lot of executives around the league and owners around the league. I think this guy will bounce back and get another job offer somewhere else, kind of like the coach there with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns coach ended up going to the Atlanta Falcons. I think he'll get another shot, other words, if he gets fired. Okay. So as far as records for Indianapolis, I got them going 8-9. The over and under is 7.5. So Vegas does not have a lot of faith in this year's team. Okay. They went 8-9 last year. I predicted to go the same record as they went last year. Again, Vegas picking them to go over and under 7.5. I'm being a little generous because I do like their defensive line. I do like DeForest Buckner, the running game. I think Roddy Leonard can keep them in some of these games. If they flip a few games, maybe they can get past one of these other teams. But I don't know. I just think Jacksonville and Houston are a little too strong for the Colts here. Okay, now Jacksonville. They did lose Travis Etienne. I'm a little concerned about that. That's a very good running back here. And I want to try to get this other guy's name. They brought in Chris Rodriguez. I want to say he played with the pretty solid player. One flew under the radar, played with the Washington Commanders. But there was another guy, Amir Abdullah. So it's running back by committee here, and Tootin. Tootin, yeah, I remember rooting Tootin last year coming in, filling in. We'll see how this air quote running back by committee works here. We're going to see how Travis Hunter works out in the offense. If he's just going to play him primarily at corner and whatnot. Very good defense. Listen, they went 13-5 last year. Okay. Coaching staff did a really good job there with Trevor Lawrence. But the schedule's pretty tight. It's a tough schedule here. At Denver, at Cincinnati, at Baltimore on the Thursday, at the Giants, much improved Chicago, at Dallas. This is a much more difficult schedule. Okay. Much more difficult schedule for them than last year, I think, the way this is set up. And Liam Cohen, I don't know if Cohen's going to have that kind of magic that he had last year on this team. So I got them taking a slight step back at 9-8. Could they go 10-7, 11-6 and flip a few of these games here? I had them losing at the Giants. Maybe they beat the Giants. I had them losing at Chicago. Maybe they beat Chicago. Okay. I had them losing at Dallas. Maybe they beat Dallas. So that's three they could flip right there. Okay, those NFC teams that they're playing on the road. But we'll see. We'll see what Cohen can do. Okay, they could very well take off and be stronger than they were last year. I don't know. I did have them beating Denver though at Denver, but they got to play New England the very next week. So it's a much more difficult schedule. They've got 2 games in London. They in the past they've done well in London. I think this past year year before last they got handled in London. So who knows? So 9-8 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And trust me, folks, I'll come back and I'll give you the entire division. So don't get too caught up into my numbers here. I'll give you the entire standings, my prediction of the entire division when I get done with this division. Okay, Tennessee Titans. Listen, as I said the other day, yesterday, as I said last week, Cam Ward is not where I think he should be at year 2, training camp, second season with a guy like a Brian DeBall, with this much upgraded receiving core. Wan'Dale Robertson added on there. Carnell Tate added in there. Calvin Ridley brought back. Still got plenty left in the tank there. Hanging on to the ball too long. Although he did look better against Seattle. This team torched early by second stringers from Seattle in this past game. Although they did win the game. So I'm just not sure. I get a sense, and I want to make sure and not sound like I'm contradicting myself. But I do want to say this. I do think this team will be they'll play better as the season gets long. I think they're a young team. They have a losing culture down here in Tennessee right now. Under Brian Callahan was a little bit over his head, to say the least. I think the combination of Robert Saleh and Brian DeBall is going to help this team. I just don't know how well of a maturation during the season that Cam Ward can do, okay? It does not look good as of right now, okay? I do think that they're probably going to be one of those teams that they're going to probably be out of it early. They'll probably be like 2-6. We're all going to write them off. Then down the stretch, maybe they finish like 3-5 or something like that. And they're playing late. They're playing spoiler down the stretch in games. So all that being said, they got 4 defensive players coming back from last year's team. So which means they've added 7 new defensive starters, and a lot of these guys are free agents that they brought in from other teams here. One being James Franklin Myers here, with guys like the reason why I'm saying this because Tennessee had some of the most money. Jermaine Johnson, guys like that, Wandale Robertson, Alante Taylor. These are players that came in. Tennessee had the most money. Them and the Raiders had the top. They were the top 2 in money and free agency money, per se, bringing back. So I think they're probably going to go 5-12. Now, they were 3-14 last year, 5-12, probably put them in the top 5 to 10 picking in the draft. Could they win 7, 8, 9 games? Possibly. I just don't see it right now. They look too out of place. I think they're going to get off to a rough start, although I did have them beat the Jets week 1. But playing Philadelphia, Giants, Baltimore, Houston, Indy, even Cleveland after that, although they got to beat Cleveland home at Cincinnati. That's even before the bye week. That's loss after loss after loss. I could see this team just getting absolutely torched. And the swagger and the physicality and the coaching of Saleh and DeBall is going to take place after the bye week around November 1st. And I think that they could swing off some wins against, say, a Washington. They got an Indy at home, maybe a Pittsburgh, spoil Pittsburgh at home, maybe beat a Vegas team, something like that. So 5-12 for Tennessee. Doing a quick recap here. Doing the quick recap of the AFC South predictions. If I can find it. Okay, here we go. 13-4. That's probably a little generous for Houston. Probably a little too optimistic, but I still got them winning division. 13-4, finishing in first place. Jacksonville 9-8, probably a little too the other way, a little too pessimistic there. But I got them finishing second at 9-8. They're a borderline playoff team, wild card or whatever. And then Indianapolis, 1 game difference. They're 8-9, and of course Tennessee finishing 4th at 5-12. Okay, all right. Now the AFC East is going to be interesting, but let me go ahead and see if I can get back to that. My Lindy's magazine. All righty then. The AFC East 142. And I'll tell you right now that's going to be a highly contested 2-team race. You may have 2 of the better teams in the NFL in this division. And then you may have number 1 and number 2 in the NFL draft in the AFC East, if you ask me. All right. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills, fired Sean McDermott. Thought they should have fired Sean McDermott. Defensive-minded head coach. You've got a guy like a Josh Allen, generational type of player. Some would call him some would consider Josh Allen the John Elway of this generation. he is definitely the John Elway level player of this generation. What is he? 8 years with this organization. Sean McDermott, 28th run defense there. You're from the defense. That's a number one thing you have to do as a defensive minded head coach or a defensive coordinator is stop the run. And they're 28th against the run out of 32 teams. That is not acceptable. Just lucky to be in where they were. You said, well, they had a lot of turnovers in the Denver game. Yeah, because Allen and that offense had to take more chances because they knew they couldn't stop the run there, just like they were coming into games. So I was okay with that. Joe Brady, I was hoping they would try to get a bigger name. Hired the in-house guy as the new head coach there, the offensive coordinator. Now, that has worked before. Ironically, that worked with John Elway. With Mike Shanahan, you hire the in-house guy, Mike Shanahan. He fixes the offense there to get a running game. They've added some defensive pieces, and then, of course, Elway goes on to win 2 Super Bowls. Hopefully that'll happen for the Buffalo fans. Okay, so all right, and then of course they've added Jim Leonard, a very aggressive new defensive coordinator there. Going to go to a 3-4 scheme. They're going to take a lot of chances, do some blitzes. They're going to give up some big plays. They're going to make some big plays on the defensive side of the ball. Their biggest offseason move was adding DJ Moore, an excellent route runner. Now, they did add Bradley Chubb. That was their big move on the defensive side of the ball. They did draft a lot of defensive players early, and I thought this would work out last year, but they drafted a lot of defensive players, not this past year, but last year. These are players coming into year 2. Players take their biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. Maybe they come into their own and play well on those rookie. That's what you could hope for as a Buffalo Bills fan, right? Come into their own in year 2, and it all comes together with James Cook there at the running back position, keeping teams there, off the field there with Cook there and that running game. And of course, now you have DJ Moore and Khalif Shakur there at the receiver position there. And, of course, they've got those 2 Kincaid and whatnot at the tight end position. So they look like – and, listen, they're second only to the Rams in Super Bowl odds plus 1,000. The Rams are plus 500, of course, and they should be. They're the big, heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl. So I'm a little optimistic, cautiously optimistic. They got the new stadium up there in Buffalo. I got them going 13-4 as well. I got them beating Houston in week 1, so they would hold the tiebreaker over Houston right now. That may be a little, again, optimistic there at 13-4 because they do have a rough start playing at Houston, Detroit, LA Chargers, New England, at the Rams. That's their first 4 games right there. I mean, that's a tough, but I got them beating Houston. They got Detroit at home on a Thursday night. I think they'll beat Detroit at home on Thursday. Got LA Chargers. They have 10 days off there. The Chargers are coming east on early start time. I think that'll be a close game, a playoff atmosphere in week 3. I think they'll beat LA. Then they've got New England home that they could lose at New England home. They lost to New England home last year. They could be banged up from these first 3 games and lose to New England. But I'm giving them that game anyways, and I got them going 13-4. So bookmark that. I'll come back to that. Okay, next in the AFC East, obviously Miami got rid of a lot of players here, including the coach there, Mike McDonald. I mentioned Bradley Chubb, former Miami Dolphin. Now he's with Buffalo. Micah Fitzpatrick there, just gutted their secondary. They went on and brought in Jeff Hafley there from Green Bay, and Malik Willis Nice guy, great story. Love the fact that he got this contract here, but I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They have a pretty good running game. They've only got 6 defensive players and 5 offensive players. Remember, they did away with 2 as well. Only player they got there, they traded Jalen Waddle to Denver. They did away with Tyreek Hill last year. So you're just basically Devon Achane there and Malik Willis, and you're kind of holding your breath there that everything's going to be all right here. So my point is they're playing, and I said this when they brought in Malik Willis and whatnot, that this is a tank. They're tanking, and they're I got them at 2-15. Could they go 4-13, 5-12? Yeah, they could, but they're going to be picking 1 or 2 in the NFL draft next year. Kind of like the year that they tanked for Tua, right? There was a big issue. What was this, 2019, I want to say, or something like that, where there was some thought that the owner wanted, I want to say Brian Flores said that the owner wanted him to lose more games. Of course, that's illegal to actually throw games. But Flores, when they gutted the team out, they lost like 45-7 or something like that to the Ravens in the opening week. That year, they wanted to tank for like a Burrow. And they didn't. They finished a little bit better than the owner wanted them to, according to that's the accusation of Brian Flores, I want to say, at that time. I think this is a similar situation here, and they're going to be picking very early in the draft, and maybe they get Arch Manning or Dante Moore from Oregon, one of those players, maybe C.J. Carr, maybe he rises up, the quarterback out of Notre Dame. And again, folks, this time next week, I'll have the Big Ten and Rich guys. I'll have Rich Ferris and Seth there, Rich and Seth there from Big Ten and Rich So. And the Bad New Yorker will be out 1 week from tonight. We'll be talking about the college football playoff and making our predictions and pick a national champion in that. Okay? All right. So, okay, again, Miami, they're going to be trying to get one of those quarterbacks. I got them at 2-15. They'll probably win another game or 2, or they may go to 2-15. Who knows? Okay. New England. Okay. A lot of people talked about New England falling off. I mean, yeah, they're going to fall off a little bit, but they're not going to fall off that much. And this Lindy's magazine's got Will Campbell. Remember the left tackle that got worked in the Super Bowl? Remember, he claims he had this injury, and I believe he had the injury. He's got the short arms. He's going to get moved inside. I want to say they drafted a left tackle there in the first round. They're going to do some shifting on the offensive line. Trayvon Henderson, very good running back coming into year 2. The big move there, and obviously they traded for A.J. Brown, the 2028 first-round pick. Got the post-June 1st trade there for A.J. Brown. And not to let it go sliding by, but yes, of course, Mike Vrabel had the accusations, the pictures, the embarrassment with the Diana Rossini, the athletic reporter. That was a big story for a few weeks. She ended up leaving the Athletic because of this. He avoided the media for weeks during the draft process, going back to April. I think this is all past Vrabel. This team will be better in spots. When you got A.J. Brown, he's, 29 years old, still got plenty left in the tank. And you got Drake May, who led the league in completion percentage last year. This is going to be a good team. They're going to be a tough out. They could still win this division, okay? I got them going 12-5, Buffalo going 13-4, and just being a one game. This is going to be a 2-team race here in the division, decided by one game. I could be off with this, but I do think they're going to play well. They're going to lose their opening week against Seattle, coming up on that Wednesday, September 9th. But I got them rebounding quite well and finishing off 12-5. They're not quite going to have the season at 17-4 that they had last year. They had a very easy schedule. They caught a lot of teams off guard there. Teams are going to be bucking for Drake May in that offense. A lot tougher schedule. Like I said, at Seattle week 1, at Jacksonville, at Chicago on a short week, at the LA Chargers, although I haven't won in that game because it's off a bye week. You got to play at Kansas City. You're playing Minnesota, very tough defense there. You got Denver again. Okay. And, of course, your divisional games there against Buffalo. So, again, 13-5. Let's see how this thing plays out. Okay, last and, of course, probably least. Last but not least. In this case, last but probably least. The New York Jets, this Lindy's magazine has Aaron Glenn on the hot seat. He's probably the hottest coach on the hot seat right now, coming in this season. A lot of people, myself included, probably should have just moved off him after 1 year. The owner didn't want that. He didn't want that criticism, I think, because Aaron Glenn is black and whatnot. I do think that. And he seems like a good guy. He's a pretty bad coach here. They didn't get any interceptions last year or something like that. Defense had played well. They've got new coordinators on offense and defense. And notably, they brought in Frank Wright there to be the offense. Not a bad coordinator, Frank Wright there, to work with Geno Smith. Geno's going to be good for the first few weeks, and then he's going to fall apart as the season went along. They've built up their roster quite nicely through draft picks. Had a pretty good draft this past season. Had a good draft last year. They've got a fair offensive line. They brought Brees Hall back there. They've got Allen, the other running back there. They're going to have a decent, but they just don't have a good quarterback room. They did move off Fields, which I thought was very smart, moving off Justin Fields. I think he's with Kansas City now. But my thing is, I just do not believe in Aaron Glenn as a head coach here. I did have them going 2-15 as well, right down there with Miami. Could they win 4 or 5 games? Very much so. I actually had them losing at Tennessee. Robert Saleh, that would be like a revenge game there, per se. But, they could very well, because, remember last year, they won their opening week against, I want to say, no, it wasn't last year. Oh, yeah, no, Geno Smith last year, Geno Smith as a starting quarterback for the Raiders last year won an opening week against New England. And New England went to the Super Bowl, and he was playing with the Raiders team and got number 1 pick. So, they could possibly get that win and get 3-4 wins there for New York. And they're going to be in the sweepstakes with Moore, possibly Arch Manning, CJ, one of those players. They're going to be right there with that quarterback situation. Same thing with Miami in their division. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two teams play out as far as what they do as far as the quarterback situation is concerned. So I do think they'll move off Glenn at the end of the season. That's not really a hot take. I mean, he's probably the big favorite to be fired anyways. Okay, now let's go back to the AFC East. The AFC East here. Buffalo 13-4. 1 game separates them from New England. 12-5. So you got New England at 12-5, Miami at 2-15, maybe 3-12. The Jets 2-15, maybe 3-12 as well. You could flip them too. They're going to be bottom feeders. They're going to be fighting for that that number 1 pick there between Miami and the Jets, and two bottom feeders, and then two teams that are going to be in the playoffs. One that's going to be hosting a playoff game, and the other one will be on the road for a playoff game. Again, Buffalo finishes first, 13-4, 12-5 New England, Miami 3 of 15 and then 2 of 15 for the Jets. Like I said, we'll see how those play out there for the bottom there for the 2027 big time. Supposedly going to be a big time quarterback draft. We'll see how it plays out. It wasn't like that last time, but because remember last year was supposed to be a lot of hype and it was kind of a dud. But this year I do think the quarterbacks were going to be more talented in this particular draft upcoming. Okay, so that is three divisions in the AFC. I've already got the NFC. All right. I've got one more to do. Hopefully, I can get the AFC West done Thursday. And, of course, before the season starts, not this week, possibly next week, not Monday, we're going to do the college, or Tuesday, we'll do the college football playoff show on Tuesday, 1 week from today. But the next week, hopefully Monday, the next week, before the NFL season starts, I will give you my playoff prediction and background. Who's going to go to the Super Bowl? Okay, got some time. Like I've already started to waver a little bit on my Dallas Cowboys possibly winning the NFC East and maybe the Giants finishing a game back with the Eagles there, and of course the Washington Commanders finishing last in that division. So I'm still wavering a little bit on that. Still got some time to change some of these things up a little bit. We've had some injuries, nothing major so far. Still thinking about the NFC South. I think I know I got the Saints winning it. So I will give you my playoff predictions once I get done with the individual divisions and rankings and whatnot for that. And we'll see how that plays out. To do a quick recap, again, that Daquan Wright situation with the former Ole Miss player who wants to go to LSU. Daquan Wright here, tight end, cut by the Cleveland Browns, expected to sign with LSU on Wednesday. We'll go on the Cleveland Browns. Now, that was reported earlier this morning, and now the SEC saying, no, they want to ban players. So this is going to be a court fight with the SEC and, of course, the local courts. I don't know how this is going to play out. It's interesting, but again, like I said at the beginning of the program, I think it's very hypocritical and inconsistent of college, the powers to be in college football, the commissioners, and, of course, the NCAA itself, when you have guys who have played baseball for 5 and 6 years and they play and they're getting paid minor league contracts here and coming back and playing college football. But no, you can't go to pro football and come back to college football, even if you still have a year of eligibility. I think that's a bunch of nonsense, okay? Boy, they really need one consistent, Colin Cowherd mentioned this time and time again about there really needs to be a president over all of college sports here, not just the NCAA. They really need one consistent governing body of all the major conferences and have a set of rules here that's more consistent with each and every major conference, although they have fallen in line with the Brandon Swordsby thing, with the gambling issue. And it looks like the big conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC today, both said they will not let a player come back from the NFL and play in their conference. So we'll see how that plays out in court. The drama continues. So hopefully I'll be on Thursday with the Mad New Yorker. I'll be on Thursday with the Mad New Yorker, and we'll see how all this stuff plays out. Also, the Tennessee Vols player was, I think this was Aaron Carter, if I'm not mistaken. He was suspended for 2 games, if you all recall, for some kind of airline ticket or some nonsense. But now that has been reduced. That has been reduced to 1 game. and I'll see if I can get his. That has been reduced to 1 game. So he will be back for the Georgia Tech game, and I'm trying to figure out where this dude is here. See what his name is. I'm looking through my notes here. Arian Carter. Okay, here we go. Arian Carter has had his suspension reduced to 1 game. He'll be back for the Georgia Tech game. So I think it's edge rusher. Tennessee needs all the help they can get. Like I said, if this team goes 7-5, I think it's the fact that Faison Brandon's going to be starting as a true freshman. Don't have a lot of faith in him winning 9, 10, 11 games. Not with the true freshman. Not when you've got players that have been in the league 3 and 4 years and all these transfers. I just don't see it happening. So, all right, folks. Another great day. I'm just now getting my feeling back. I've been doing this show. I'll do 1 show, and then I'll do another show with Mad New Yorker. For those of you who've been following me since day 1, since I started this in May of 2017, for a long time, I did this show 5 days a week. Well, I did it 1 day a week on Sundays. Then I started doing it 5 days a week. I'm getting back into that feel of doing it a few nights in a row now. During the season, I plan on doing this Tuesday through Thursday. Now, if I get some sponsors, I could go back to 5 days a week. But for financial reasons, because I got to work more, I do expect during the football season to do this program Tuesday through Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. I want to have some guests in here, and I'll have a regular show here. And you'll have a lot of consistency from my perspective. And I need to get my fastball back, which I'm starting to feel that I did these 2 shows in a row. I'm starting to get that back here. And I appreciate everybody being patient with me because, doing this stuff on my own, low budget here, single guy, no wife helping me, no financial backing, wasn't born on third base like a lot of these people were, having to play the long game. And because I have bills to pay also. But I'm hanging in here with this thing. And this show will be on the radio at some point. I'll be buying some time later on this year, maybe in late October, November, probably buy a few spots on the local radio. And, of course, I'll advertise them as well. So to everybody that's helped me out and subscribers, I want to thank you, my Uber, Lyft riders. Thank you for subscribing. If you have not subscribed at the Real Sports Scope YouTube, or you can subscribe to the podcast there. This one of the Spotify's, whatever this be, Apple, Spotify, whatever. You can follow me, Robert Butler, on Facebook. I'm verified. Same thing with the verification there, with the verification here at R Butler 723 on the X app, and of course, folks on the TikTok, which I've got quite a few. At Robert at the Real Sports Scope. That's the TikTok guy with the suit on. Got about 343 followers. I need to add about 100,000, several 100,000 to that, and get that show on the road as well. So, all right, folks. Again, if you like the show, share the show. How to get those announcements. Rest in peace. Dolly Parton. There's some videos of her and Kenny Rogers, that duet song, and someone, I think Dave Portnoy put that out there, and people saying, they're singing that song together in heaven together. Great song there. I put that on the expo. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you hopefully Thursday with the Mad New Yorker here on The Real